Ghent is a medieval city, and the Middle Ages were a Christian time. It was a world of God, Jesus, the Holy Ghost, the Virgin Mary, angels, and saints. But there obviously was a world before Christianity, and that one is called the pagan world. Paganism as a term was first used by early Christians for people who practice polytheism, or believe in multiple gods, and followers of religions other than Judaism. The term pagan comes from a Latin word paganus, meaning villager or countryside dweller. The people who dwelt in Ghent before there was a city were pagans before the arrival of Christianity. But the question then is, who did they worship? As with much of the pagan past, we have very little sources of the pagans themselves. The Greeks and a few other peoples did have, and as such we know very well about their gods. But the Celts that lived in these parts didn't write, and we have to save ourselves with early Roman and Christian sources, archaeology, and even place names to puzzle the pieces together. Looking at the name of Ghent, we might already have a clue. Most historians believe that the older name for Ghent, Ganda, is derived from the Celtic word, which means confluence. There definitely is a confluence here of two rivers, and is the reason for the city's long history of cultural exchange and trade. Reading the work of Hugo Janssens, there is mention of other sources that connect its name with an obscure deity named Gontia, a Celtic moon and horse goddess. This horse cult was well known in Gaul, in a part of Europe that encompasses France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and parts of Switzerland and the Netherlands. Is there more proof for a horse goddess being possibly worshipped in Ghent? At first glance, one might be tempted to say no, because the city doesn't really feature horses anywhere. But sometimes one needs to look on the outskirts to find the leftovers and hear the echoes of the past. In the town of Merelbeke, located south of Ghent, there's a small chapel and a surrounding area with an interesting feature. The chapel is devoted to Saint Eligius, known locally as Saint Elo. He's responsible for converting the pagan people of this region in Europe to Christianity, and so one sees his name on chapels and churches here, as well as his patronage. A large valley surrounds the chapel and is home to many horse breeders, continuing a practice that's centuries old. Every year in July, a consecration of horses takes place here. That's because the saint is considered the patron saint of horses and those who work with them. A legend tells the story of a miraculous intervention performed by the saint. A horse was reluctant to be shot. Eligius thought it was possessed by demons, so he cut off the horse's foreleg and, while the horse stood on the remaining 3 legs and watched, he reshot the hoof on the amputated leg before miraculously reattaching the leg to the horse. Is Eligius taming an ordinary horse here, or is he taming the local horse goddess? It isn't unusual for the early medieval church to have Christianized many of the ancient practices and beliefs and give it a new coating. It also isn't unusual for saints to have epic battles with certain creatures that end up being the deities that the people were previously devoted to. So we got sources saying Ghent is named after a horse goddess, and surrounding areas throughout the Middle Ages and until today have beliefs and practices involving a saint that's the patron of horses. What if the saint responsible for converting the people of Ghent is no more than the old god in a new coat?